Travelers flying along the eastern shores of South America cross a great river cutting through a seemingly endless tropical forest. The Amazon, largest river in the world. It drains a valley almost as large as the United States, a valley that holds the world's largest jungle, a valley hot and humid that has stubbornly resisted conquest by man, a valley of mystery and danger that has been a challenge to men of every epoch. Even today, few travelers venture into the swamplands of the Amazon. The uniform green is sometimes interrupted by a clump of flowers or some bright tropical foliage. This jungle covers a large part of South America. From its source to its mouth, the Amazon flows close to the equator. The climate is hot the year round, but never extremely hot. The valley draws steady, damp winds off the ocean. These winds bring the region an unusually heavy rainfall, especially from January to July. The Amazon is fed by 7 great tributaries, each more than 1,000 miles long. Together they drain a central valley, 2,000 miles long and 800 miles across at its widest point. The Amazon Valley covers much of the Republic of Brazil and parts of several other nations. The source of the Amazon River itself is thought to be 12,000 feet up in the Andes Mountains of Peru, less than 100 miles from the Pacific Ocean. The river bursts through the last mountain pass to fall into the broad, flat, central plain. Now wide and deep enough for large vessels, the river rolls 3,000 miles to the Atlantic Ocean, often miles across from shore to shore. In places, there are broad lakes where the river thrusts the land away, almost to the horizon. There are vast, desolate swamps in the lowlands, washed over by high water. Occasionally, the river is walled in by steep bluffs. At such places as this, on the upper reaches of the Amazon and its tributaries, stand occasional settlements of primitive Indians. These tribes live by hunting, fishing, and the Stone Age kind of agriculture. The Indians live in family groups. Several families form a village under one leader or chieftain. Toti is the chieftain of this tribe. While his wife Sulu feeds their youngest son, she watches him decorate a spear with parrot feathers. The chief's oldest daughter, Liula, works in the manioc patch. The roots of the manioc plant are the staple food of these Indians. With other women of the tribe, Liula carries the daily supply of manioc roots back to the village. An armed tribesman always accompanies the women for protection. Many varieties of manioc root are poisonous in their natural state. Long, long ago, Indians learned to make this plant safe to eat. Preparing manioc is hard work. The root is first peeled, then cut up and ground into pulp. The pulp is then placed into a tube-like basket, woven from jungle reeds. By a simple but ingenious method, the poisonous juices are squeezed out. The dry pulp which remains in the basket will make a nutritious flour once the poisonous juice is removed. All the Indians need comes from the jungle and from the river. Reeds and wood fibers for matting. Thread from palm or bamboo fibers, spun in the same way woolen or cotton thread is made. The men spend much of their time preparing hunting equipment, spears, bows, and arrows. Older hunters show boys how to use homemade weapons. Chief Toti is his tribe's best hunter. He is also a good teacher. When enough new spears and arrows have been made, Toti takes his men into the jungle to hunt. Hunting is difficult in the tropical forests. Although there is a rich wildlife, no large land animals live in the Amazon jungle. Curious birds and animals live protected in the dense foliage. Here the flat-nosed porcupine finds its home. And the Amazon maracaja, or spotted jaguar. The silk-haired night monkey hides in the trees. And the odd-looking sloth, an animal that rarely comes down from his high perch. The Amazon anteater is another unusual animal. His meat is a delicacy for Indians. There is danger in the jungle. Today's hunt was very successful. The hunters bring home an anteater, a sloth, and 2 monkeys. Whenever there's plenty of food, it's time for a feast. Land turtles are a popular food. Turtles are cooked in their shells. Manioc flour is sprinkled over the turtle meat. Leaves of plantains are wrapped around meat and fish. When everybody has eaten his fill, the whole tribe gathers for a dance. Most young people of the tribe join in. Women and small children watch. As it flows toward the ocean, the Amazon widens until it becomes a slow-moving sea. Placid as the river seems in its quiet mood, it turns into an endless sea when it floods across the farmlands and odes and villages. Powerful tides swell it twice a day. Where the banks are high and protected from floods, villages spring up, like the village of Santo Antonio de Car. Rubber farmer Sebastian Batista lives near Santo Antonio. He comes to the village regularly to deliver the rubber he has collected and to exchange it for merchandise. Since there are very few roads through the Amazon Valley, most villages can be reached only by water. Farmer Sebastian Batista, like most people of the valley, is of mixed white and Indian blood. His son, Georgia, tends the garden. He leaves his chores to see what his father brought from the village trading post. Today, it's cotton material for a shirt. Grandmother Batista mixes manioc with palm oil to make a dish called farafas. A simple press called a teepee removes the poisonous liquid from the manioc pulp, much as the Indians of the upper Amazon do. Meanwhile, Georgia climbs up the bacaba palm to gather the soft bacaba nuts for the evening meal. Several nut-bearing palm trees grow in the jungle. The bacaba nuts are crushed into an oily paste. Sister Blanca is mixing the nuts with hot water to soften the nut meat. cousin Pedro Batiste lives nearby. Every day he makes the rounds of his rubber trees. His wife Pepita and the little children stay close to home. Women and children rarely go into the jungle. The rubber trees which the two farmers tend are native to the Brazilian jungle. Several kinds of rubber-bearing trees grow wild in the Amazon Valley. From here they were taken to Asia, where they are now cultivated on special rubber plantations. An incision in the bark starts the sap flowing. A can this size will be filled in 4 hours. Most of the trees belong to the trading post, and the farmers share in the revenue. Farmers like the Batistes tend about 100 trees per family. Pedro's wife uses a mortar and pestle to pound flour out of dried manioc pulp. People have discovered different ways to prepare this staple food. On his way home, Pedro found a land turtle, and he shot a duck. Everybody in the family works. Little Anita is stripping bacaba nuts off the stems for the next meal. In many Amazon farm families, men eat first, while the women serve. After the meal, Pedro lights a fire under the kettle. The milky rubber sap, called latex, is poured slowly over a paddle to form a soft layer which the smoke of the fire will harden into rubber. In the neighboring shed, Sebastian is also turning his latex into crude rubber. The rubber he makes is not the kind we know. It is crude rubber which still has to be processed before it can be used. The air will age and darken the balls of latex. The two families jointly brand their latex for identification. B stands for their family name, Batiste. Next day, it is Pedro's turn to take one ball of rubber to the trading post to exchange it for some goods for his family. To the Batiste family, the trading post is the most important place in the valley. It is his only link with the outside world. The trader takes over all the crude rubber from the farmer and credits his earnings to his account. Whatever Pedro buys, the trader will charge to his account. At the river edge, rubber balls are loaded on boats. Rubber is an important export of this area. The shallow waters along the river's edge abound with river turtles like the tracajá. Fishermen often hunt for turtle eggs on the sandy shore. A deep hole in the sand betrays a turtle's nest. Turtle eggs are considered a great delicacy. Turtles lay a dozen and more eggs in holes which they dig in the soft sand. These are about the size of chicken eggs. Fully grown turtles, prized for their steaks, are loaded on the river boats and sent to markets of the large river towns. Fishing is important too. Fishermen at Icar use nets to catch the large, meaty perarucu. Some of the perarucu is eaten fresh, but most of the catch is preserved by drying. Dry perarucu is sold all along the riverbank and represents a significant part of the food supply for the people along the Amazon. So work goes on, 6 days a week. The 7th day, the whole valley rests. Sundays, many farm families travel to the river port town of Porto Afonsos. The Bachiste family rarely misses an opportunity to come to town. Everybody is dressed in his Sunday best for church. The old church square at Porto Afonsos comes alive on Sunday morning. After the Mass, there is dancing, the one recreation that all Valley people seem to enjoy. The young people like ballroom dancing, Amazon style. While the natives prefer their colorful folk dances. So they live, these people who dwell along the Amazon. Producing little, they depend on the outside world for many of their needs. The way to the outside world is the river. River boats of many shapes ply the wide Amazon. Freighters and passenger boats. Travelers often spend days going up and down on the Amazon. The coffee served on the Amazon is grown in the highlands of Brazil and brought to the valley by boat. As the river passes the midpoint, the size of settlements increases. In the center of the valley, where the Rio Negro joins the Amazon, lies the city of Manaus. More than 100,000 people live here. It's a modern river harbor deep in the jungle. Through Manaus passes much of the jungle's trade, and the trade of the outside world comes to the jungle through Manaus. Melons, bundles of jute for mattresses and burlap, crude rubber, and some jungle-grown bananas. Manaus is sometimes called the city of markets. The harbor marketplace supplies not only the needs of the large city, it also serves as a loading point of jungle and farm products. The trade of farm products and import goods is handled by trading companies at Manaus. These control the network of trading posts throughout the whole valley. The streets and business houses still mirror the era a half-century ago when Manaus was the rubber capital of the world. The Amazon Theater is a monument of the old days when the rubber boom was bringing dazzling wealth to the city and the valley. Not far from these monuments of wealth, a boat city spreads all along the waterfront. This is where the fishermen and the small boat owners live, close to the river which gives them their livelihood, always ready to set out on a trip up or down the river. From Manaus, ocean-going ships carry the trade of the jungle to the ocean ports. As it nears the ocean, the Amazon widens and spreads out into a large delta. On some of the islands, the jungle has been cleared for pasture, like on the large river island of Morajo. Here, several great cattle ranches produce beef for the valley's own markets. From island corrals, the cattle are loaded into cattle boats for packing houses in the larger river towns. As the river comes closer to the ocean, the number of industrial settlements increases. Mining towns, oil refineries, and rubber research centers. A few miles down the river is Belem, center of life on the lower Amazon. Belem is a great ocean port 90 miles from the sea. Through Belem passes most of the trade between the valley and the rest of the world. The varied crops and forest products of the river valley are side by side with numerous products which the valley needs from other regions. Bales of jute go out to the world markets. Crates of manufactured goods come to the Amazon Valley. Here, Brazil nuts are loaded for export. And here, ice is taken aboard for packers and fishermen upstream. Belem is a beautiful and thriving city. The name Belem means Bethlehem in Portuguese. 230,000 people make their living here from trading with the valley and the coast. Long the valley's largest city, Belem still stands as the gateway to the Amazon, an outpost of civilization set on the world's largest river. The river rolling through a vast valley of tropical forests that still stand out against the hand of man.